Hey everyone, True here, and as I'm still recovering from a sinusitis, I will try to keep this already delayed review of Loki a bit on the shorter side, while still trying to analyze this new SSR thoroughly. Let's get started straight away with the AI analysis, and looking at the threat levels, we see three main themes here. The first two modifiers are driven by enemies being poisoned, which makes sense because of her Reaping Scythe skill. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to be honest. Then we have more than 20% actually, if two enemies are poisoned. Another 20% threat level increase comes from the enemy having a guardian on their team, which means Loki could use the Devil's Stance, and might be the case quite often. And on top of that, after 300 time units in combat, Loki will also get another 20% increase in her threat level because her Survivor's Edict is unlocked. Looking at her active skill weights, it seems a bit odd at first that her Dark Hypnosis skill weight is so low at 1.0. However, there is a big modifier in the background which usually propels it above the other skills when she can use it. However, there are some concerns about possibly some other skills taking priority sometimes. It is a bit of an odd condition to say the least, although on the battlefield it seems to be working alright. Other than that, Devil's Stance is usually her skill to go with a 3.0 weight, except if her HP is low, then Survivor's Edict will actually get a boost because it does heal her for 100% of HP. And besides all that, it leaves the Reaping Scythe skill, which gets a 1.35 weight and is kind of a fallback or basic skill, even though it is the third skill in this row. Let's move on to the general pros and cons of using Loki. And starting off, I have to say this hypnosis skill that she has is really pretty awesome. In combination with the Mega Poison, it can often lead to the opponents giving her the turn and dying afterwards because they skip their turn. Loki also gets purified, and it also helps her, of course, against being stunned because she will get the turn from hypnosis anyways. If she gets lucky, and that's the con about this whole thing, it is really RNG driven who the hypnosis lands on. And because of the combination with the Mega Poison, there can be scenarios where she just loses the hypnosis target because the target just dies, and then the hypnosis was not taking effect. Similarly, it can also land on a target that gets stunned or doesn't get a turn for a while, and in that case the hypnosis skill will also not take effect for quite a long time and is locked for that time period. Still, the positives about the Dark Hypnosis skill definitely still outweigh the negatives or the RNG factor. And we are staying on the RNG factor with the Devil's Stance, which is a pretty sick move, attacking everybody on the enemy team with 300% damage, and then possibly with a coin flip putting a Mega Poison effect on each of them. So there's a coin flip for each enemy, of course. The combination 300% damage plus Mega Poison can often be deadly, of course. I do have to say that 2 spirit cost is quite low, however there's still the 130 time units, of course, but even that is not crazy for an attack all skill, and of course considering that she can get turns from hypnosis. However, given the strength of this attack all skill, there has to be some drawbacks, of course, and in this case it is that it does have the kind of guard requirement, so later in the game this might be not something that she can use anymore. And maybe more importantly, Devil's Stance does not ignore the stealth status effect, meaning units like Kaguya or Angel Gene might be safe from it more often than not. Coming to a third skill, I think it is a pretty great skill, Reaping Scythe, with the 100 time units, though it does attack 2 targets, and if the targets are poisoned, then it also steals spirit and deals even more damage. So really rounding off together with the Devil's Stance, a kind of skill set that is really bound to create some pretty rough times for units that are usually depending on being protected by guards, hiding behind guards. This is really difficult in that kind of Devil's Stance and Reaping Scythe combination together with the Dark Hypnosis. Her Survivor's Edict skill also packs a lot of punch, however, compared to other Survivor skills that we have seen recently, I'm not that crazy about it, let's put it like that. It does cost 2 spirit, it does cost 100 time units. Yes, it deals huge amount of damage and puts the Mega Poison on the target, as well as healing Loki and giving her the Endure status effect yet again. But still, 100 time units and 2 spirits isn't something that is awesome. Again, we have to consider that there might be the Hypnosis coming into play, helping her do this more often. The time unit thing is a general issue here for Loki, and without the Hypnosis, this would be pretty slow in general, which means she does rely on getting hopefully some good hits on the Hypnosis or possibly some TU reductions in other ways. Her first passive is probably the worst I've seen in 2023, basically a timed evasive stance, meaning she cannot be targeted by attacks that target 2 for 300 time units, but as soon as she unlocks the Survivor's Edict, so 300 TUs on the battlefields have passed for her, she loses that passive entirely and it really becomes inactive, something that we haven't seen in quite a while. Plus, there are more and more attack all skills out there now. Additionally, after the 300 time units have passed, her hate will become even higher, and her protection, because of that lacking passive, is actually lower, so her risk of dying becomes much, much bigger. However, here we run into another pro, something that in my initial view I might have underestimated. I think her second passive, the Godly Endurance, can be quite good. It can be quite tricky to actually kill off Loki, especially, ironically, if you are not running poison against her. Because if you put her to hold ground or to her endure at 1 HP, she will heal back to 100% HP if she fell below 50% HP with that attack. And this can trigger again after just 100 time units, which, if, for example, a Hypnosis lands on your main DPS, it means she could be quite hard to take out. Given her hate level, she will get targeted a lot, I think, though, which can be good if she becomes a punching bag that just doesn't die because of the Godly Endurance triggering again and again. However, not so much if she dies quickly because of it, because there's no backup net for her, like with many other recently released units. That means that something like burn, sleep, stun, all may also hurt her if she doesn't have luck on her Hypnosis. On a final note, what is quite great about Loki is that she is just a really great counter to some recent passives that we saw on some of the very new units. Spreading Mega Poison and potentially also getting the Hypnosis going again and again is something that could hurt some of these units quite a lot. Which leads me to the conclusion: we have Loki with a very strong poison skill set, and a very strong active poison skill set, I have to say, because the passive side is still on the more disappointing side, and so is her survivability ultimately, which doesn't need to be bad if she can take out some key enemies. All in all, Loki is a unit that is probably really very good against older units, taking them out. Also good against some of the newer units, but the question is, how good is she compared to some of the other super recent meta units? which at least seem to be boasting much stronger passives. As per the votes of over 300 viewers on this channel, she will most likely land on SS tier in my tier list, and I can see why this direction is being taken. We do have a potential combo with King Arthur that might be quite lethal, and because King Arthur is such a staple in top platoon ones right now, this might help elevate Loki as well. Despite ultimately being a pure poison unit with passives that lean on the weaker side, and so I personally think she will never reach SSS tier like King Arthur, but for example, of course, she's a much better unit than Angel Reset, released earlier this year. I think she might only go to S tier actually in my database tier list, just because of her more niche skillset. I don't think she will be picked up all that much, because in some cases she might be trying to fill a hole that isn't really there, especially if we see a burn resurgence soon. But maybe I am too pessimistic on her. She definitely is a lot better than she seemed on paper last week. If you do run a poison team or are really focusing on the poison archetype, then Loki is definitely a must pull though. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, if you agree or disagree. Thanks to Nizetto, Lance, Chairs and Saturn for the visuals used in this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to become a true carrot. And as always, thanks for watching.